Now, back to the King David Show on 1010 CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome back to the King David Show. Sean King, Toby David. Rays are up 3-1, heading back to the top of the fifth inning. David Price throwing very well right now, getting out of some jams. Now we want to thank Blake Barretts from the Institute for Athletes for coming on last segment, talking a little bit about from his perspective as an NFL agent, what's going on between these agents, the athletes in college, the NCAA, the NFL, the NFLPA. Now, we want to get to the bottom of things, Sean. And we're going to get all different sorts of perspectives, and we'll let everyone decide. So we wanted to bring on John Phillips from Morgan & Morgan, I believe. John, tell us a little bit, and thanks a lot for coming on the King David Show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Toby. It's good to be on in the Tampa area. I'm out in Jacksonville, Florida, right across our little state from you guys. Spent about 9 years doing sports law, from being 5% of my practice to being a substantial portion. And about a year ago, kind of a story that echoes Blake's. And let me just say this: Blake was refreshing. He did a fantastic job, and I'm going to try not to cover any of the ground that he covered. But he did a good job. Sounds like he's, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but it sounds like he's one of the good ones. Got my NFL and CFL certifications recently. Have taken a look at the laws at where they are and where we can go with them, and I'm in the process of writing a law review and trying to turn some heads with that. So, trying to wear as many hats as I can over here between Morgan & Morgan and the Breakthrough Sports Agency, and trying to be, somewhat of a leader in the legal reform.
So then you're taking on, John, just to make sure I've got this and everyone else says, you're going to try to, because we were talking to Blake about whose responsibility is this? Is it the NFL, the NFLPA, the NCAA, the players themselves, whomever? But you're trying to take it from the angle of, let's get the government involved and just put some finite rules on paper right here, and if you break them, you're either going to get fined heavily, could serve prison time. What is it we're looking at here?
Exactly. And you guys, brought up a decent point. And, I was raised where, the less big brother, the better. And I truly get that and believe that. But here's the problem. It's not just up to the NFLPA. The PA has got to start looking at recruiting violations, because they haven't before. I think for them to do so, they start casting dispersions of agents that they've approved, that they've certified, and so that kind of reflects on them. Plus, they're going to get the players regardless. So they really haven't done, quote, their due diligence with regard to this, but they're starting. They've already got a case they're investigating with a Chicago agent. And the point earlier that you guys made, that maybe the government shouldn't step in, the NFL can. The problem with that is, the Reggie Bush situation. Reggie Bush was paid by a marketing and endorsement agent, the couple $100,000, the house rental, all that, which no one regulates, and the NFLPA doesn't have any ability to, much like the NCAA doesn't have any authority over all of us. So we're left then to state laws and one federal law, and that's where it gets even more in shambles.
John, and from my perspective, and this is just my perspective, is that your intentions are very well founded, but what scares me is that you've got 19, 20, 21-year-old kids that are grown adults, and they're entering into agreements with other grown adults. And I don't see where it's the responsibility of the government to regulate some kid getting paid. And let me even say this: he's not a kid anymore. He's an adult. I mean, he can go to jail, to adult prison. They can be sent to war. They can do all sorts of different things. And what worries me, and you touched on it a little bit with the big government thing, is I feel like it's the NFL and the NFLPA that need to do something here, because the NFL, they can say, listen, to the Players Association, this next CBA, you need to start bringing in having agents that are responsible, that are doing this and this and this and this and all the right things. We don't need the government to step in and do that, because now I don't know if there's antitrust laws in play here. I mean, I'm not the legal expert. It just worries me, because I feel like You know what? It's not the government's responsibility if a grown man at 19 or 20 makes a decision to get paid by another business entity. And that's what worries me a little bit.
And I fully agree. And it the funny thing is, I'm, writing the law review and advocating, and it's like, be careful what you wish for, that old expression. But the NFLPA can't really regulate endorsement agents. And the problem is, kind of like Blake said, we don't know the percentage of cheats out there, but because the NFLPA has let in, the likes of Master P, who I don't think is was a qualified contract advisor, but they've increased their restrictions to the point of last year, requiring a graduate degree with what some would call the practice of law as far as this negotiation. You kind of need to start over to get it completely right. And the problem is, if the NFLPA doesn't do its job, and because the NFLPA cannot do its job with endorsement agents, we're left to states, and states can only go after what happens in their state, and this is as much of an interstate project as you can get, and it's risk versus reward. Yeah, the guys are going to get what they get, but are they in breach of contract for the university for that? Yeah. Can the university sue? No, because they're afraid of deposition. So as long as schools are upset about players getting paid and doing this under the table, there's going to be a need for reform. I mean, if you want to just say, hey, let's find a way to stipend the players, or open up, as kind of Blake said, open up agents from the get-go, and bring this out in the sunshine as the Pac-10 or Pac-12 commissioner advocates. That's an option too.
We have John Phillips here from Morgan, based out of Jacksonville. One of the issues that I have is that it never seems to be the actual player that receives the benefits that receives the ultimate punishment. I feel like there's a disconnect in how the penalties are given out. What would be a suggestion so that the people actually involved in the transactions are the ones that are punished? You take the USC situation is a great example. The kids that are there now, the people that are part of that university's athletic program now, are the ones being punished for something that was done, 4 or 5 years ago. To me, that's where the disconnect is.
It's completely where the disconnect is, and it's not fair because a school like USC is going to feather out through the scholarship productions for 7 years before it's back on track, and all because Reggie Bush's family took benefits that he shouldn't have according to the system we have now. There's two ways to do that. Make the NFL say, hey, if you're taking benefits, you're going to sit out a draft, which sure would wake these guys up. Or two, a small little entity known as the IRS needs to take a look and say, oh, you know what? This clandestine sum of money, this $200,000, nobody paid taxes on it. And that's how they got Al Capone. Go after tax evasion, and that sure, as soon as there's an arrest there, they'll be more concerned with it. It's completely risk versus reward for agents, for players. There is no, under this system, there is no risk. And the agents get $30,000 per every $1 million, and the players get millions of dollars. So they're taking that very small risk and going for it.
John, in a perfect world, and you're helping to craft this legislation right now, what would be your ideal situation to come of this?
The best that we're coming up with is NFLPA, do your job, okay? Where we are, where all this has come from, the source of all this being, the hot story is because the NCAA, who has no control over us whatsoever, as Blake correctly pointed, as far as the NCAA concerns, we can talk to these guys anytime. There's no control, but the NCAA is the only one that has the ability to, go and look around from state to state. And until there's some sort of entity that can do that, state attorney generals and state secretaries of state who have the power according to the federal law and according to the 41 state laws on the books, until they can be empowered to go look and have the money to go look, the agents are going to keep being, quote, rogue. So, there's got to be, whether it's a joint, whether it's not government, and the NCAA and the NFLPA team up and create some sort of task force, much like the NFL has, which would probably be best. If the NFLPA has plenty of money to create an NCAA-type task force. Again, that's getting out of the law side. Laws are in shambles. I mean, that's a problem too. But the issue will be legislating, even from a private sector side, somebody that can look around and say, hey, this person cheated. I mean, there's players like Andre Smith from Alabama that everybody knows. He got suspended. It was all over the internet who recruited him and what they did. That guy's never once been indicted, investigated, anything. And why not keep cheating?
Again, we're joined by John Phillips from Morgan & Morgan. Last question for you, John. What type of time frame are you looking at where if you were able to craft this legislation, how long before it would be implemented if it was agreed upon by all parties, the Congress, and everyone up there in D.C.?
Good grief, it could take forever. The plan for me is to get the law review done by week's end. It started off fairly small, and it's blowing up because I want there to be a history of the times you can count on your two hands how many agents have gotten in trouble for this. Going back to Tank Black, to today, there's just not many at all. And then the plan is there's a couple of congressmen that have kind of shown an interest and want to talk to us, and we're going to go there and then submit it to the presidents of the universities who own the BCS, the NCAA, and the NFLPA, and just say, hey, there's guys like me and guys like Blake that are doing what we need to do and doing it the right way, and there are guys that are cheating, and we want some reform, whether it's private sector, public sector. We want some reform here, and we've got $1 billion business, and fans are unhappy, schools are unhappy, the NCAA is unhappy with it, and it doesn't take much for if Lord forbid somebody came and looked at the South Florida and suspended one of your star players, it's going to be, if Matt Grothe had gotten popped, it would have changed the entire career for South Florida.
Yep.
And so it's to that point that we've got to have something that helps insulate it, and the players have just got to wait. It's so tough for them, but they've got to wait just a little bit longer.
And I think before you go, it's an environment right now where most agents feel like if you don't cheat, you can't compete. Because you have guys coming in that are offering everything to these kids that have the potential to be high draft picks. And until the penalty for breaking the rules becomes so damaging that it could put you out of business, and I think it's going to continue.
I agree, and it's why we started Breakthrough Sports Agency, and we're a smaller boutique agency, but fortunately we've got the power of 150 Morgan & Morgan attorneys behind us and right next to us. So we're going to do all we can. We target guys in the Southeast, and we're trying to lead the charge, and we just all we can do is our best and try to do it the right way, and hope that we can have some reform with this and get it cleaned up.
All right, thanks for being on the show, John. Great stuff, brother. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Good luck with your review, too.
Thank you. If anybody wants to check it out, it'll be on www.mybtsa.com, and you can always check out my profile on forthepeople.com.
Hey, say that one more time. What was the first one?
The first one, the sports agency is www.mybtsa.com.
Okay. If you guys are out there, www.mybtsa.com. John Phillips, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Clowns, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a second. Update on this Rays game. Rays winning 3-1. Top of the 6th, 1 out. David Price is bowling. Keep it locked, Clowns.